Have you ever felt like your life is trapped in a thick fog? Your steps feel heavy, your inner voice is full of doubt, and the world seems to laugh at your every effort. We've all been there when confidence crumbles and we ask ourselves, am I really capable? It's a simple question, but the answer can change the entire course of a person's life. And this is where Norman Vincent Peale brings us to a long-forgotten secret: the power of believing in yourself. Early in this book, Norman Vincent Peale lays down a simple but revolutionary foundation. Believe in yourself. These words may sound cliché, but behind them lies a truth that has been tested by human history. All great achievements, all leaps forward in civilization, were born from people who dared to believe in their abilities, even when the world doubted them. But why do so many people fail to believe in themselves? The answer is often fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, or even fear of success itself. These fears form whispers in our minds. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. Not worthy enough. And ironically, those whispers grow into reality because we believe them more than we believe our own abilities. Peale emphasized that self-confidence is not just a feeling, but a mental discipline. He gave examples of ordinary people who succeeded in overcoming their limitations simply by repeating positive statements to themselves. From a psychological perspective, this is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Repeated beliefs shape actions, and those actions create reality. But Peale didn't limit his argument to psychological logic. He linked it to spirituality. According to him, believing in ourselves also means believing that we are creatures with divine potential. Confidence stems not from ego alone, but from the awareness that a greater power sustains us. In this way, we don't simply rely on our fragile human capabilities, but rely on an infinite power. In everyday life, this message resonates. A student struggling before an exam, a small business owner worried about failing, a parent feeling inadequate to support their family, all face the same battle: self-doubt. Peale reminds us that the first step out of that trap isn't a complicated strategy, but a simple decision: choosing to believe. From a modern scientific perspective, this can be explained by neuroscience. Positive thinking has been shown to reshape neural pathways in the brain. When someone tells themselves, "I can," the body responds by releasing energy that strengthens motivation and focus. So simple words implanted in the mind are not just rhetoric, but biological instructions that change the way we act. Will we dare to believe in ourselves? Because behind that decision lies a door that opens a different future. Norman Vincent Peale emphasized that success is not given to those who doubt, but to those who dare to put faith in the abilities they have been given. This is the first step toward the power of positive thinking. Norman Vincent Peale introduced a sobering yet challenging idea. True strength is born of inner peace. In lives filled with hustle and bustle, ambition and pressure, many people think that strength comes from pushing themselves relentlessly. But in reality, it is a calm mind that generates the purest and most enduring energy. We often encounter people who appear relentlessly busy, their pace fast, their schedules packed, but their faces full of fatigue. They move, work, struggle, yet inside they are in turmoil. The result is easily drained energy. Ideas become stagnant, and decisions are often flawed. The inner peace Peale refers to is not simply a feeling of comfort, but a practical foundation that allows energy to flow in a directed manner. A peaceful mind can focus strength, ignite focus, and maintain resilience in the face of adversity. Peale emphasized that peace arises when we dare to let go of the burdens that bind our minds. Worries, resentments, and guilt often build up until our minds become cloudy, like water that has never been cleansed. By learning to forgive, reorganizing our hearts, and praying, the water becomes clear again. And when our minds are clear, our energy flows more freely. Psychologists call this cognitive load reduction. The fewer emotional distractions, the more mental capacity we can direct to what matters most. Prayer and meditation are central to this book. Peale doesn't portray prayer as a rigid ritual, but rather as a way to free the mind from burdens. He believed that by surrendering one's worries to God, humans gain a new strength greater than mere personal resilience. Interestingly, modern research confirms this. Meditation and prayer have been shown to lower cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and increase activity in the parts of the brain associated with calmness, creativity, and empathy. In everyday life, this message feels very relevant. A business person facing immense pressure might think that the only way out is to work harder. But often, it's when they dare to pause, rest, and calm down that new ideas emerge more clearly. A tired housewife rediscovers her energy not by forcing herself to keep moving, but by pausing, taking a deep breath, and experiencing inner stillness. Peale also reminded us that our environment plays a crucial role in maintaining inner peace. Living amidst conflict, listening to negative voices, or being surrounded by people who spread anxiety will slowly erode our peace. Therefore, creating a healthy environment, both physically and emotionally, is an integral part of the journey to peace of mind. This doesn't mean escaping reality, but rather cultivating an inner space protected from excessive mental toxins. Inner peace is not a passive state, but an active force that creates extraordinary resilience. A peaceful mind is a focused mind, one that sees opportunity amidst the storm, and one that can withstand life's trials. When we maintain inner peace, we are truly opening access to the greatest source of energy available to humankind. In this chapter, Norman Vincent Peale talks about something many people desperately seek: lasting energy. We live in an age where fatigue seems to be a normal part of life. Many people complain of running out of energy before the day is over, or feeling like they don't have enough energy to pursue their dreams. Peale shows that the true source of energy lies not only in the body, but also in the mind and spirit. He emphasized that fatigue is often not caused by overwork, but rather by how we think about it. When our minds are filled with fear, worry, and negativity, our energy drains faster than the physical activity itself. Conversely, when we do something with a calm heart, enthusiasm, and confidence, the body responds with redoubled strength. In other words, fatigue stems more from a distracted mind than from a tired body. Peale reminds us to guard our minds against complaints and pessimism. People who constantly tell themselves, "I'm tired, I can't do it anymore," will actually feel exhausted because those thoughts become instructions for the body. Conversely, when someone fills their mind with energizing words like, "I'm still strong, I can get through this," the body receives that positive message and generates additional energy. Modern psychology calls this the mind-body connection. Thoughts significantly influence physical conditions. In his practice, Peale emphasized the importance of simple habits like adequate sleep, moderate exercise, and a healthy diet. But he further emphasized the importance of spirituality as an inexhaustible source of energy. When a person relies solely on his own strength, that energy quickly depletes. But when he connects to a divine power through prayer, gratitude, and faith, he discovers a flow of energy greater than just his own physical reserves. Peale also recommends learning to let go of unnecessary things. Many people become depleted not from actual work, but from carrying too much emotional baggage, unforgiven guilt, worries about the future, or unreleased anger. These are like rocks carried in a backpack. By courageously letting go, we suddenly feel lighter, and our depleted energy returns. In everyday life, examples of this are readily apparent. A teacher who teaches with enthusiasm can stand in front of a class for hours without tiring, because they channel their energy from a love for their work. Conversely, someone who does their work only out of compulsion will feel drained before they even begin. This demonstrates that energy isn't just a physical thing, but also the meaning and attitude we infuse into every action. Constant energy is not a gift for certain individuals, but rather the result of a balanced mindset, spirituality, and lifestyle. By eliminating negative thoughts, connecting with a higher power, and living with gratitude, we can access a seemingly limitless reservoir of energy. This is the simple, yet profound secret Peale offers. Relentless energy comes from a healthy mind, a peaceful heart, and a faithful spirit. Norman Vincent Peale opens this chapter with a belief he considered the most fundamental source of power: prayer. He called prayer not merely a ritual or religious obligation, but a real source of energy that can transform one's inner state, renew one's body, and even direct one's life's path. Prayer is a way for humans to connect with the infinite power of the divine. Peale recounted that many people came to him with complaints, feeling tired, lost, or haunted by seemingly impossible problems. His advice was always simple: try praying, not with rigid words or rote recitation, but with an honest and confident heart. Prayer, Peale said, is a personal dialogue that opens the door to peace, calms the mind, and gives new courage. Interestingly, prayer doesn't just work on a spiritual level. Modern psychology shows that the practice of prayer and meditation can reduce stress levels, improve sleep patterns, balance emotions, and even enhance focus. Simply put, prayer shifts the mind from anxiety to gratitude, from doubt to trust, from chaos to inner order. These effects are real and can be felt by anyone who practices them consistently. Peale emphasized that prayer is more than just a request. Many people view prayer as simply a wish list presented to God. However, true prayer is a harmony between the human will and the divine will. Through prayer, we learn to surrender our burdens, acknowledge our limitations, and allow a greater power to work through us. This is where prayer becomes an inexhaustible source of energy, as we no longer rely on our own limited strength. He also emphasized the importance of prayer with conviction. Prayer said half-heartedly with doubt and distrust will not produce any power, but sincere prayer, said with full faith, can open the door to change. This kind of prayer not only changes external circumstances, but first changes the heart of the person praying. And when the heart changes, attitudes, actions, and results in life also change. In everyday life, we can see evidence of this principle. A worker anxious before a big presentation might find peace after a moment of prayer. A mother anxious about her child's future finds peace when she surrenders her worries to God. Even a leader, faced with a difficult decision, often finds new wisdom through silent prayer. All of this demonstrates that prayer acts as a bridge between finite human beings and an infinite source of power. Prayer is not an escape, but rather an active force capable of renewing life. When we make prayer a part of our daily lives, we not only gain momentary peace, but also discover new energy, courage, and direction. In other words, anyone who truly experiences the power of prayer will discover that behind human weakness, there is always divine power ready to support. Happiness for many is often viewed as something that comes from outside: luck, success, or the recognition of others. However, in this chapter, Peale emphasizes that happiness is not a gift suddenly bestowed by circumstances, but rather something that can be created from within. Each person has the ability to choose their attitude, and from that choice comes happiness, or conversely, suffering. He points out that inner suffering is often not a direct result of events, but rather the way we interpret them. Two people can face the same situation, but their emotional outcomes differ. One sinks into despair, while the other remains optimistic and sees opportunities. The difference lies in mindset. In other words, happiness is not an external situation, but rather a mental decision made every day. Peale encourages us to cultivate simple, positive habits: smiling, speaking kindly, and appreciating the little things. He believes that happiness isn't a mountaintop to be reached only once in a lifetime, but rather the small flowers along the way. When someone makes a habit of appreciating simple moments, a warm greeting, a morning sunshine, or gratitude for their health, they create a constant atmosphere of happiness around them. Modern psychology confirms this view. Research on positive psychology shows that people who practice gratitude and cultivate optimistic thoughts have higher levels of life satisfaction, better health, and greater resilience to stress. Happiness, it turns out, not only brings a sense of well-being, but also improves the overall quality of life. However, Peale did not turn a blind eye to suffering. He acknowledged that life is full of challenges, sadness, and even tragedy. But it is precisely at this point that humans are tested and faced with a choice. Will they succumb to bitterness, or will they persist in cultivating the seeds of happiness? According to Peale, the ability to keep a small light burning in the midst of darkness is a testament to true inner strength. In real life, we can find many examples. A seriously ill patient can still smile sincerely, not because the pain is gone, but because they choose to focus on the love of the family that surrounds them. A simple worker can feel happy not because of abundant wealth, but because they see meaning in their work. All of this demonstrates that happiness is the art of choosing our focus. What we see grows. Happiness isn't something to be pursued, for it grows within the mind that chooses to be happy. Anyone who trains themselves to think positively, appreciate the little things, and be grateful in every circumstance will discover that true happiness is always available, anytime and anywhere. In today's fast-paced world, many people fall into the habit of grumbling, complaining, and fretting over small matters. Norman Vincent Peale called this fuming and fretting, simmering in petty anger and anxiety over trivial matters. He argued that this habit not only ruins one's mood, but also erodes energy, health, and even relationships. Every time someone wallows in anger or anxiety, they are wasting their life energy on something unproductive. Peale emphasized that anger and anxiety often stem not from major issues, but from small things magnified in the mind. A long line, an unpleasant comment, or someone else's minor mistake can trigger an outrageous emotional outburst. However, when a person learns to control their response, the problem suddenly seems small and insignificant. This is the essence of self-control, not eliminating problems, but rather managing how we react to them. He also reminded us that people who are constantly fuming and fretting tend to lose perspective. They get caught in a reactive spiral, preventing them from thinking clearly or finding solutions. Conversely, people who can maintain composure find it easier to see the bigger picture. Inner calm is not a sign of weakness, but rather a strength that enables one to face problems with a cool head. From a health perspective, persistent anger and anxiety have been shown to have detrimental effects. Research shows that chronic stress increases the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and immune disorders. In other words, every time someone chooses to dwell on minor annoyances, they are slowly shortening their lifespan. Peale aimed to demonstrate that controlling anger is not just a matter of morality, but also a matter of health and quality of life. To overcome this habit, he offers several practical steps. First, practice pausing before reacting. When something provokes an emotion, take a deep breath and count down for a few seconds before responding. Second, redirect your attention to the positive or humorous aspect of the situation. Third, practice forgiveness and letting go of small, insignificant things. With this practice, one can build emotional resilience, which makes life feel lighter. The power of prayer and meditation also finds a place in this chapter. For Peale, prayer was not merely a spiritual ritual, but rather a practice for calming the mind. When someone prays sincerely, they seemingly surrender the burdens pressing on their chest to a greater power. From that inner calm comes the ability to face life with more patience and wisdom. Stop wasting energy on petty anger and trivial anxieties. Life is too short to waste it on exhausting grumbling. By practicing calm, forgiveness, and perspective, one not only protects one's mental and physical health, but also paves the way for a more peaceful, productive, and meaningful life. One of the most fundamental principles of the power of positive thinking is the belief that what we expect is often what we get. Norman Vincent Peale asserted that life tends to follow the direction of our expectations. If someone consistently anticipates failure, their mind will find reasons to make that failure happen. Conversely, if they instill confidence in success, their mind will be open to opportunities that bring success. Expectations become a kind of magnet that attracts outcomes consistent with their thoughts. Peale explained that many people fail not because of a lack of ability, but because they secretly expect failure. They live their lives with the illusion that something will go wrong, and subconsciously act in ways that make that fear come true. A pessimistic mindset is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. In contrast, people who expect the best see the world differently. They find opportunities where others don't, dare to take steps others avoid, and persist when others give up. In other words, positive expectations aren't just empty optimism, but a mindset that guides real action. Expectations fuel determination and effort. From a psychological perspective, this aligns with the concept of a self-fulfilling prophecy. A person's belief in a certain outcome influences their behavior until that outcome actually occurs. If a student believes they can pass an exam, they will study with discipline and confidence, thus increasing their chances of passing. If an entrepreneur believes their business can grow, they will boldly take innovative steps, ultimately paving the way for that growth. Peale didn't ignore the reality that the world is full of obstacles. However, he emphasized that positive expectations provide extra strength to overcome those obstacles. People who expect failure will stop at the first obstacle, while those who expect success will look for detours, try other strategies, or keep going until they find a way through. Expectations are the energy that separates those who stop halfway from those who reach their goals. He also provides practical examples of how to cultivate positive expectations. Speak encouraging words, even before evidence of success appears. Visualize the best possible outcome, not the worst. Train your mind to ask, what if everything goes well, instead of what if everything fails? By cultivating this mentality, one plants the seeds of success long before the harvest. Ultimately, Peale teaches us that the future is often shaped by what we believe about it today. Hoping for the best doesn't mean turning a blind eye to reality, but rather refusing to be controlled by fear. When we choose to believe that good things can happen, we open the door to greater opportunities, courage, and possibilities. Positive expectations are a force that can change the course of life. Life always presents challenges, failures, and even pain that can make us want to give up. However, Norman Vincent Peale reminded us that true defeat never comes from without, but from within. A person only truly loses when they choose to believe they have lost. This belief is what separates those who quit halfway from those who get back up and continue the journey. Peale emphasized that defeat is simply an event, not an identity. Every failure is part of the process, not the end of everything. The problem is many people let failure stick to them like a permanent label. They say, I failed, so I'm incapable, when they should be saying, I failed this time, but I can still try again. This way of thinking separates those who continue to grow from those who stall. In the face of failure, Peale encouraged cultivating a stubborn mental attitude against despair. I don't believe in defeat, he said, not as a form of arrogance, but as an affirmation that as long as one keeps trying, defeat is never final. Success often stems from a tenacity that refuses to submit to temporary failure. Modern psychology proves that mental toughness, or resilience, is the key to long-term success. Those who can view failure as a lesson have a greater chance of success. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. But he didn't call them failures, but rather called them thousands of unsuccessful attempts. This attitude aligns with Peale's teaching. Failure is merely a stepping stone to success. Peale also reminded us that spiritual faith can strengthen this mentality. Prayer and faith provide fortitude when human reason begins to falter. When a person surrenders their fears to a greater power, they find new courage to continue the struggle. With faith, failure is no longer frightening, but rather part of a greater plan. In everyday life, we see plenty of evidence of this. A seriously injured athlete might give up, but with the belief that defeat isn't permanent, he undergoes therapy, retrains, and eventually returns to the field. An entrepreneur might lose capital, but with an unwavering attitude toward defeat, he builds a new, more robust venture. They prove that failure is just one chapter in life's long story. Ultimately, Peale reminds us that defeat exists only in the minds of those who surrender to despair. A person is never truly defeated as long as they have the courage to get up, try again, and move forward. I don't believe in defeat is not just an optimistic statement, but an attitude that no failure can stop someone who refuses to quit. Anxiety is one of the greatest enemies of human life. It eats away at the mind, weakens the body, and robs the soul of its peace. Norman Vincent Peale emphasized that worry not only wastes energy, but also creates problems that may not actually exist. Worry is a negative projection into the future, a shadow often more frightening than reality itself. Peale explained that many people live as if they are under constant threat. They imagine worst-case scenarios, exaggerate the possibilities, and ultimately become paralyzed by fear. Yet most of the things they worry about never actually happen. In other words, worry is a burden carried without any real reason. To break this habit, Peale offers a simple principle. Train your mind to focus on solutions, not problems. Instead of asking, what could go wrong, ask, what can I do? By shifting the focus from imagined fears to concrete actions, one begins to lessen the grip of anxiety. He also emphasized the importance of mental training. Whenever a worry arises, try to interrupt the thought process by replacing negative images with positive ones. If your thoughts conjure up images of failure, visualize success. If you fear loss, cultivate gratitude for what you have. Through repetition, the brain learns to build new, healthier pathways. From a spiritual perspective, prayer plays a crucial role. For Peale, prayer was a way to release worries that were too heavy to bear alone. By praying, one surrenders one's problems to a higher power and finds an inner peace that logic alone cannot provide. Prayer becomes a natural antidote to a restless mind. Additionally, Peale encouraged simple lifestyle habits: adequate rest, moderate exercise, and maintaining balance. Worry often thrives in a tired body. By maintaining physical health, the mind becomes more resilient to stress. Like a machine, humans need rest to avoid being burned out by excessive stress. Ultimately, Peale emphasized that worry is simply a habit, and every habit can be changed. By training the mind to think positively, focusing on solutions, surrendering burdens through prayer, and maintaining a healthy body, one can escape the trap of anxiety. Life becomes lighter when we choose to believe that the future is not a threat, but rather an opportunity to be faced with courage and faith. Every human being has personal problems that sometimes feel too overwhelming to overcome. Some struggle with family conflicts, others are trapped under work pressure, and still, others battle with their own weaknesses. Norman Vincent Peale emphasized that no problem is truly insurmountable. There is always a power within each person, aided by faith and positive thinking, that can find solutions, even to seemingly impossible problems. Peale explained that the essence of problem-solving lies in mental attitude. When someone faces a problem with fear, it seems larger than they are. However, when they decide to believe that a solution exists, their mind becomes more creative and open. Optimism allows space for new ideas that were previously blocked by panic. In other words, belief is the first key to problem solving. He also emphasized that many problems persist because we constantly replay them in our minds. We dwell on the difficulties, not the solutions. We complain, not plan. Peale encourages changing this mindset. Stop nurturing the problem and start investing energy in solutions. This way, the mental energy normally wasted on worrying can be used to develop concrete solutions. Peale also emphasized the power of prayer in this process. For him, prayer is not just a request, but a process of communication that brings peace and clarity of thought. When someone prays earnestly, they find new courage to face problems. More than that, prayer ignites faith that a higher power is guiding their path. In that spiritual calm, solutions often emerge in surprising ways. Besides prayer, concrete action is still necessary. Peale suggests breaking large problems into smaller pieces. Focus on completing one thing that can be done today, rather than the entire burden at once. Consistent, small steps will chip away at the mountain of problems little by little. With this discipline, problems that initially seemed insurmountable begin to feel less daunting. In real life, we often see people who successfully overcome great difficulties because they refuse to give up. A bankrupt person can rebuild their business because they decide to find a new path. A person hurt by family conflict can find peace after choosing to forgive. All of this demonstrates that the power to resolve personal problems is already within us, waiting to be unleashed. Ultimately, this chapter teaches us that problems are not prisons, but rather challenges that invite us to grow. With positive thinking, sincere prayer, and concrete steps, everyone can find the strength to face their challenges. No problem is greater than a person's ability to overcome it, as long as they believe in it and act with courage. Humans have long sought ways to heal themselves, not only physically, but also mentally and spiritually. Norman Vincent Peale emphasized that one of the greatest forces in the healing process is faith. Deep belief, both in God and in the possibility of recovery, can unleash a healing energy that cannot be explained by medical logic alone. Peale demonstrated that the mind and body work in close relationship. Thoughts filled with fear, hatred, or despair often worsen the body's condition. Conversely, thoughts filled with faith, hope, and love can accelerate the healing process. Positive beliefs not only provide inner comfort, but also influence biological reactions, reducing tension, improving the immune system, and strengthening the body's resistance. He recounted numerous true stories of people who experienced healing after igniting their faith. One patient was given a low life expectancy, but because of his faith in divine healing, he survived and recovered beyond the doctor's expectations. For Peale, These stories were not mere miracles, but living proof that faith is one of the most powerful medicines available to mankind. Peale also emphasized that faith does not mean rejecting medical treatment. Faith and medical science can actually go hand in hand. Prayer provides inner strength, while science provides a way to actually improve the physical condition. By combining the two, a person has a much greater chance of healing, both physically and emotionally. In daily practice, he recommends instilling healing words within oneself. Recite the prayer with conviction, as if infusing positive energy into the body. Visualize yourself healthy, strong, and energetic. In this way, the mind forms suggestions that direct the body to follow a healing pattern. Peale also reminded us that love is a vital part of healing. A heart filled with hatred is difficult to heal, as hatred is a poison that weakens the soul. Conversely, a heart filled with love and forgiveness opens the door to true health. In faith, love is not just an emotion, but a healing energy flowing from a divine source. Faith is a healing power within everyone's reach. When one believes that healing is possible, one opens the door to miracles. Healing is not merely a medical process, but a spiritual journey in which body, mind, and soul are united by one belief, that with faith, all things can be restored. There are times when life energy feels low, the body is tired, the mind dull, and the spirit seems lost. Norman Vincent Peale recognized that this kind of fatigue is not just a physical problem, but also an emotional one. Many people feel tired not because their bodies are truly exhausted, but because their minds are filled with anxiety, anger, or unresolved burdens. True fatigue, Peale said, often stems from within. He emphasized that one of the biggest causes of decreased vitality is a restless mind. Negative thoughts work like sand stuck in a machine, making everything run harder. People who are constantly anxious, angry, or jealous will more easily feel exhausted, as if their energy is being drained, just fighting the emotional burden. Conversely, a peaceful and hopeful mind can re-energize even when the body is weak. Peale offers a simple formula for restoring vitality. First, let go of negative, energy-draining thoughts. Second, replenish your soul with calming thoughts. And third, connect with your spiritual source of strength. In practice, this means learning to forgive, be grateful, and pray with confidence. This process frees the soul from unnecessary burdens and recharges it with fresh energy. He also emphasized the importance of regulating one's pace. Many people burn out by trying to do too many things at once. Peale encouraged everyone to learn to slow down, take breaks, and give their bodies and minds time to rest. Like batteries, humans need to be recharged regularly. Rest, prayer, and contemplation are ways to recharge our inner energy. From a medical perspective, this concept aligns with what we know as stress management. Modern research shows that meditation, prayer, and relaxation techniques can lower blood pressure, improve sleep quality, and increase daily energy. In other words, Peale's formula isn't just a religious theory, but has a solid scientific basis. In real life, we see people who remain full of vitality despite their advanced age. The secret lies not in a perfect body, but in a constantly refreshed mind. They choose to set aside anxiety, maintain their spirits with prayer, and fill their minds with gratitude. As a result, they radiate an energy that is contagious to those around them. Ultimately, this lesson conveys the message that true energy comes not only from food or rest, but also from mental and spiritual attitudes. When vitality begins to wane, return to a simple formula: release inner burdens. Renew your mind with positive thoughts and connect with the source of divine power. From there, new energy is born, empowering us to continue living with renewed vigor. Every human being is fundamentally shaped by their thoughts. What we think repeatedly becomes a pattern that shapes our attitudes, actions, and even our path in life. Norman Vincent Peale believed that one of the most powerful ways to change ourselves is to open the door to new thoughts. Old thoughts filled with fear, pessimism, and doubt often keep us stuck in the same cycle. But when fresh, hopeful thoughts begin to flow, our lives can change drastically. Peale emphasized that personal transformation always begins in the mind. If a person continually fills themselves with demeaning words, they will live in the shadow of limitations. However, if they begin to cultivate words of confidence and courage, they will gradually believe in greater possibilities. These new thoughts act like seeds that will grow into trees of positive attitudes and actions. He encourages his readers to actively seek out new sources of inspiration, reading uplifting books, listening to encouraging words, and surrounding themselves with optimistic people. Each positive exposure creates a new flow that gradually replaces the old negative current. The mind, like a river, will take a new direction when we allow fresh flow into it. Peale also recommends using affirmations, the repetition of positive words that implant new suggestions into the subconscious mind. For example, repeating phrases like, "I am confident," "I am capable," "I will succeed." While seemingly simple at first, this repetition will gradually chip away at doubt and build a foundation of new confidence. What is consistently implanted in the mind will eventually become reality. From a modern psychological perspective, this is known as neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new pathways based on experiences and thoughts. Repeated negative thoughts create increasingly strong pessimistic pathways, but when we introduce positive thoughts, the brain builds new, healthier pathways. This is scientific proof of what Peale taught, that flooding oneself with fresh thoughts can completely transform one's life. Peale added that faith provides additional strength in this process by allowing divine thoughts, such as love, forgiveness, and hope to enter. A person experiences not only a mental transformation, but also a deeper spiritual transformation. These new thoughts are not only refreshing, but also provide a more meaningful direction for life. This chapter ultimately affirms that anyone can restart their life by opening the door to a new flow of thoughts. Every positive word, every sincere prayer, every inspiring reading is a fresh stream capable of reshaping the soul. By allowing fresh thoughts to flow, we are rewriting our own future, stronger, brighter, and more hopeful. There's a powerful force that's often overlooked: the power of calm. In a busy world, many people assume that to be strong, we must be constantly tense, work nonstop, and push ourselves. But Norman Vincent Peale demonstrated the opposite. True strength comes from calm. The more relaxed a person is, the easier it is for them to access their inner energy and intelligence. Peale observed that many people burn out not because their work is too hard, but because they perform it in a tense manner. Muscles tighten, thoughts become chaotic, and hearts become filled with anxiety. All of this drains energy faster than the work itself. But when the body and mind are allowed to relax, the same task feels lighter, and energy flows naturally. The key to this chapter is discovering easy power, a power that isn't forced, but flows naturally from inner calm. Peale encourages readers to learn to release tension, whether through prayer, meditation, or breathing exercises. By regulating deep breaths, the body gradually responds with a sense of peace, and the mind becomes clearer. It is from this state that true power emerges. He also emphasized that inner calm can change the way we face challenges. Tense people tend to overreact, making small problems seem bigger. Relaxed people, on the other hand, have enough emotional distance to think clearly, find solutions, and act calmly. This is why great leaders or spiritual figures often exude calm. They know that from calmness comes authority and influence. Modern research on the psychology of stress confirms this. When a person relaxes, their body releases muscle tension, reduces stress hormones, and increases blood flow to the brain. The result is clarity of thought, increased creativity, and improved physical endurance. In other words, relaxation is not just a state of relaxation, but also an effective strategy for maximizing one's potential. In everyday life, this concept can be put into practice simply. Pause in the midst of a busy day, take a deep breath, or take a leisurely walk in nature. Small moments like these aren't a waste of time, but rather an investment in restoring energy. Peale believed that if someone makes a habit of relaxing, they will find that their energy and productivity actually increase. This chapter concludes with a very practical message. Don't push yourself to the point of exhaustion. Learn to relax, for in relaxation, there is a power that cannot be obtained through force. This power is subtle, but very real. It gives resilience, clarity, and the ability to face life with constructive calm. This is the secret of easy power, the power born of inner peace. Every human being fundamentally longs for warm relationships and acceptance from others. But often, in our attempts to get others to like us, we end up feeling awkward, overly contrived, and even insincere. Norman Vincent Peale emphasized that the best way to get others to like us is to be genuinely genuine. Authenticity and kindness are more powerful magnets than any contrived social tricks. Peale highlights a simple principle. If you want to be liked, start by liking others first. Many people approach relationships with the question, will they accept me? When the more appropriate question is, how can I appreciate them? When someone genuinely takes an interest in others, listens attentively, and expresses appreciation, they naturally become liked. One of the important secrets Peale shared was the art of listening. People are more attracted to those who listen than to those who only want to talk. By listening, we respect not only the words, but also the feelings and dignity of others. This is what makes relationships genuine and warm. Peale also emphasized the importance of humility. Arrogance, even when disguised as great accomplishment, often repels people. Conversely, genuine humility attracts sympathy. People feel safe, valued, and accepted. This is what makes a person's presence pleasant and reassuring. Psychologically, this aligns with the concept of likability in communication science. Research shows that people who are friendly, empathetic, and genuine are more likely to build long-term relationships. They don't necessarily need to be eloquent, but simply possess the ability to create a sense of comfort and security in interactions. In everyday practice, this can be as simple as giving a genuine smile, using someone's name respectfully, or showing small attention to things that are important to them. These simple acts often make a greater impression than effusive compliments or attempts to appear attractive. Ultimately, Peale reminds us that the key to getting others to like us isn't manipulation or elaborate social techniques. The secret lies in a genuine heart, respecting others, listening sincerely, being humble, and giving selflessly. With these attitudes, we not only gain sympathy, but also build genuine, lasting friendships. Every human being, sooner or later, faces heartbreak. The loss of a loved one, a failure that shatters hope, or a betrayal that shatters trust, all leave deep scars. Norman Vincent Peale did not turn a blind eye to this harsh reality. He knew that a broken heart can leave one devoid of enthusiasm, even leaving life feeling empty. However, he also believed that there was a way to heal a broken heart, a recipe that could restore the strength of the soul. Peale emphasized that the first step in dealing with a heartache is to accept reality with courage. Many people try to deny or run away from the pain, but denial only prolongs the suffering. By accepting that the hurt is real, one begins to pave the way for healing. Pain cannot be instantly erased, but it can be processed into part of a life journey that gives new meaning. He then highlighted the importance of relying on faith. Prayer, Peale said, is a soothing balm for the soul. By praying, one surrenders an unbearable burden to a power greater than oneself. This simple act brings a sense of peace, as the heart no longer bears everything alone. In prayer, tears turn into strength, and loss turns into an opportunity to find new hope. Peale also reminded us that time is crucial for healing. Heartbreaks can't be forced to heal quickly, just as physical wounds take time to heal. But if left to fester, the wounds can deepen. Therefore, he encouraged people to fill their recovery time with energizing activities, serving others, developing themselves, and staying connected to a supportive community. Modern psychology supports this view. Studies on resilience show that people who face heartbreak with acceptance, social support, and spirituality are more likely to bounce back. In other words, Peale's prescription is not only religious in nature, but also aligns with scientific findings on how humans recover from emotional trauma. In real life, many people find that it is precisely from their heartbreak that they grow stronger. Loss teaches the meaning of appreciation, failure opens the door to wisdom, and grief deepens empathy. Peale believed that if one can see heartbreak not only as an ending, but also as a new beginning, then the pain can transform into a source of inner strength. Hearts can be broken, but they can also heal. With the courage to accept the calming grace of faith, the healing grace of time, and the love of giving and receiving, heartbreak can slowly transform into a path to spiritual maturity. That's the timeless recipe for dealing with heartache. Not to erase the pain, but to find meaning within it. At the culmination of his journey, Norman Vincent Peale leads us to a profound source of power, something beyond human limitations. He calls it the higher power, a divine force that is always available, waiting to be connected. Throughout the book, he speaks of positive thinking, prayer, hope, and serenity. But ultimately, all of this finds its full meaning when we realize that there is a source of energy far greater than ourselves. Peale emphasized that humans often feel vulnerable because they try to face life on their own. No matter how strong a person is, there comes a point where they will feel exhausted, limited, and helpless. But when they learn to draw strength from the source, they no longer stand alone. Just as an electric cable can only provide light when connected to a power source, so too will humans find their true vitality when connected to divine power. The way to access this power, according to Peale, is simple but profound: prayer full of faith, firm conviction, and an attitude of surrender. Prayer is not just a request, but also a way of aligning oneself with God's will, opening the heart to receive the inexhaustible inner energy. When a person prays with faith, it is as if he opens the door for the flow of power to flow into him. Peale emphasized that this strength is real, not just an abstract concept. He told stories of people who found courage in the face of great challenges because they believed in a power that sustained them. In the face of illness, failure, or loneliness, they remained standing because they knew there was an invisible hand holding them. That is the strength born of faith. From the perspective of modern spiritual psychology, this can be understood as transcendence, the human experience of feeling connected to something greater than oneself. Research shows that people with spiritual beliefs tend to be more resilient to stress, recover more quickly from trauma, and are more optimistic about the future. In other words, faith is not just a matter of belief, but also a source of practical strength for living life. Peale encourages his readers to embrace this power without hesitation. He suggests beginning each day with a short prayer, a faith affirmation that reminds us that we are never alone. He also encourages us to pause, take a breath, and silently say to ourselves, "I am not alone. God is with me. I am able because He gives me strength." These simple words can transform fear into courage and weakness into strength. That life can be lived with serenity, energy, and courage if we are willing to open ourselves to a higher power. Through positive thinking, sincere prayer, and deep faith, everyone can draw that power within themselves. This is the culmination of the power of positive thinking, realizing that our greatest power is not what lies within us alone, but what flows through us when we connect with the source of life. Our long journey with the power of positive thinking has led us to a fundamental realization. The power of our lives is determined by what we think. Thoughts are the seeds that grow attitudes, words, and actions. When those seeds are positive, life grows in a hopeful direction. However, when we cultivate negative seeds, life becomes trapped in a cycle of anxiety, despair, and helplessness. Norman Vincent Peale guides us through various paths, from learning to trust ourselves, discovering new energy, cultivating peace, creating happiness, and dealing with heartache. Each chapter offers not only theory, but also practical guidance that can be applied in everyday life. He reminds us that prayer, affirmations, optimism, and faith in divine power are the real foundations that can change the course of life. The book's overarching message is that change always begins within. We may not be able to control everything that happens externally, but we can control how we think, how we feel, and how we respond. From there, we develop the strength that enables us to weather storms, rise above failure, and move confidently into the future. And ultimately, all of these teachings boil down to one thing: connection with a higher power. Because the greatest power comes not from what we strive for, but from what we allow to flow through us, an infinite spiritual force that gives us peace, hope, and the courage to move forward. So, if there's one thing we can take away from this entire journey, it's a simple yet courageous decision. Choose to think positively, believe in ourselves, and open our hearts to a higher power. With that, every day can be a new beginning. Every challenge can be an opportunity, and every wound can be transformed into a source of wisdom. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. It simply requires a heart full of hope, a mind filled with faith, and a soul willing to remain connected to the source of life. That's where true power lies. If this story touched your heart, don't stop here. Keep going. Share this video so more people can experience the power of positive thinking. Leave a comment about the biggest lesson you've learned, and don't forget to subscribe so we can continue exploring more incredible books. Because one positive thought today can be the beginning of a completely different future.